Hey gamers, Blindy here. It's June 2025 and the next game in my backlog to be completed was Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. This game was the first in the series to steer away from World War II and venture into modern conflicts. For me, the original game was a pretty big title at the time. There were a ton of World War II games that hit the market at about the same time, but Call of Duty never made it into my gaming rotation. For me, my favorites were Day of Defeat, the mod for Half-Life, and Battlefield. I think Day of Defeat was a great balance between realism and gameplay, and Battlefield had huge maps and lots of flexibility with weapons and vehicles. And I was still addicted to Counter-Strike, and there's only so much gaming I could manage. Back to Call of Duty, the first game was wildly successful, and the next two were alright, but Infinity Ward switched up the formula in this fourth entry. This was the first time the series changed its theme, this time headed into modern warfare. This was a bit of a gamble, because if there's something that all of us gamers know, it's to not rock the boat. If there's something that we like about a series, don't change it. Unless we get bored of it, then you damn well better change it. But Infinity Ward knew that when it comes down to it, there's only so much you can do with a historical setting like World War II. A change would be needed at some point, and changing to a modern, fictional conflict turned out to be just the maneuver that the franchise needed, and would continue to prove successful for the next 15 plus years. Now, if you were wondering how I spelled maneuver, either the British way or the rational way, you can find out in the subtitles. For each and every video I publish, I make sure the subtitles are accurate, timed correctly, punctuated properly, and all that. And you may be asking yourself, why go through all that effort and time when YouTube provides automatic speech-to-text subtitles and timing? The answer is simple. It's because I love each and every one of you. So if you ever have any questions about the people in your life, just know that at least one person loves you, and you could see that love in the subtitles. That and the YouTube auto subtitles have enough inaccuracies that they aren't reliable if you want quality subtitles. And while my audio quality may not be great, I'll be damned if I have poor subtitles. Anyways, you may not believe it, but the Call of Duty games based in modern conflicts are nearly 20 years old at this point. Modern Warfare was released on November 5th, 2007. Even back then, it had a strong hold on November release dates, something they really try to hit with each release. And like I mentioned earlier, this entry was released by Infinity Ward, whereas other companies contribute to the Call of Duty franchise, such as Treyarch with the Black Ops series, and Sledgehammer Games taking the lead on various other titles. Infinity Ward is known for the original Call of Duty, as well as this game, the first Modern Warfare game. Originally, this game was released on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Windows, then later released for Mac and, let me check my notes here, yep, the Nintendo Wii. I didn't play it on the Wii, though if any of you have, I'm really curious how well that gameplay translated to that system. Let me know in the comments if you were one of those players. Instead, I played it on Steam, on my LCD Steam Deck. I played it on normal difficulty, and I would have liked to try it on a harder difficulty, but I had some issues with key mapping that I'll get into a little more detail later in this review. On Steam, you can buy this game for just under $27 Canadian, and you'll be able to find it half off when it goes on sale. 13-ish bucks is alright, but this game is old, and there are a bunch of other Call of Duty games. If Activision wants to convince gamers like me that this series is worth taking a gamble on, it would be nice to have one of the games at an entry-level price point. On the other hand, you can grab the entire franchise in a bundle for a mere $1,270. When this game is on sale, it's the cheapest of the franchise, and you'll need less than 8 gigs to install it, so if you haven't played one of these yet, on the surface, this is an easy choice to start with. If you decide to play this game on a Steam Deck, like I did, know that it's considered to be unsupported. I would consider it to be playable, but it takes some work to get it to that point, to be honest. Again, I'll get into the details in just a little bit. And if you're off the charger, expect around an hour to an hour and a half of game time. Reviews for this game range from decent to really good. On Metacritic, it scores between the mid-70s to the mid-90s. It looks like the platform it's played on really affects how much you'll enjoy this game. On Steam, it's sitting at 93% approval with 19,000 reviews, so it seems that computers play this game well, for the most part. ESRB rates this game as an M, and that should not be a surprise to anyone. Blood and gore, intense violence, and a bit of strong language just for good measure. In all honesty, it's exactly what you might expect from a game like this. And like many other first-person shooters, the campaign is short because the focus is mainly on multiplayer, which is something I won't be reviewing here. I'm focused on the single-player experience, and How Long to Beat says you should set aside around 7 hours to play this game. I took about 6.25 hours, but in actuality, this is merely a guess. The save file didn't keep track, so I gave it a good estimate. For comparison though, when I reviewed Titanfall 2, the campaign needed 5 to 6 hours or so to complete. At least with games like Halo, they prioritized more effort into the campaign, meaning that you don't have to only care about multiplayer. Single player is worthwhile as well. And now that I've covered all the external details about the game, I'm going to give you folks a quick warning before I continue on. If you're concerned about finding out too much about the story of this old game, I won't talk too much about it, but I may show more than you want. Realistically, there's not a lot to show, but if you're sensitive to spoilers, I'll give you a warning now. Potential spoilers are ahead. In Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, you take the role of multiple players, though for the most part you control John Soap McTavish of the British SAS and Sergeant Paul Jackson of the US Marines. The missions bounce back and forth from location to location as the characters travel through different parts of the world. You'll visit the Bering Sea, Ukraine, Azerbaijan, some fictional country in the Middle East, and a few other spots. You drop in with a set loadout, follow the commands of the mission leader, and make your way through the mission. Expect between about 15 to 45 minutes or so per mission, unless you die a lot, like I did on some missions. And not every mission is a straightforward run around and kill 'em all type of shooter mission. The variety is almost surprising, which makes for a nice change of pace. As far as controls, well, as you can see, this is a first-person shooter. And while some FPS games work really well on consoles and with controller settings, like Halo, a whole lot of them are more ideal on a PC. The control scheme just works better with a keyboard and mouse combination. So to make this PC game work on your Steam Deck, you're going to have to make sure you bind the keyboard keys to buttons, and you're going to have to remember which buttons those are mapped to. As I think about it now, I might have been able to use the Xbox controller scheme in the options, but that was then and this is now. It might work, but I'm not sure, to be honest. I'll put the controls on the screen for you, though I suspect no one will actually use it. Just know that in-game you'll be prompted to do actions, but you'll be prompted with keyboard commands. So, I have quite a long history with shooters. Like I mentioned earlier, I spent a lot of time with Half-Life mods, particularly Counter-Strike, which I played for about 10 years, Day of Defeat, and others. I also really love Team Fortress 2, and you know what? Just about anything that Valve made. When it comes down to it, most of my history with shooters is on PC, though I still have other games like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, and Titanfall 2, which I've reviewed before, that I've played with controllers. And where am I going with all this? I'm not really sure, to be honest. I thought I had an idea, but nope, not really. I just kind of wanted to somehow get to the point that this game has a wait to heal feature, which seems to be popular with console shooters. It seems strange to me that Call of Duty would choose this option. In any sense, those games somewhat emphasize the realness of the world. You shoot real weapons in realistic scenarios using real-ish tactics. Most other popular games at the time used permanent damage. Now, there are some benefits to treating health in this way. One is that you don't have to pepper your maps with health packs or bandages or energy drinks or whatever else games use nowadays. It keeps the player focused on the mission instead of running around looking for items when they should be pushing forward and getting the mission done. Another benefit is that if they stopped healing altogether, the game could get very difficult very quickly, especially for people that are playing on easier difficulties. Maybe they could implement checkpoints where the team could gather midway through a mission, patch up, and then essentially start part 2, but that would mean you'd have to redesign missions specifically for that mechanic. But most importantly, it makes it much more console friendly. And that's where Call of Duty excelled. Other games prioritize the PC experience, and Call of Duty prioritized the console experience. By waiting to heal, you avoid the run away to heal system, but you also encourage shooting skill. If you don't kill the enemy, particularly in multiplayer the first time, they're going to be at full health in just a few seconds, and any effect you had would be erased. So when a console player is already at a disadvantage with turning speed and aiming speed, at least they get to heal if they're able to find cover. There are a number of weapons that you'll get your hands on in this game, and for the most part, they all felt good to shoot. The recoil was manageable, scoping didn't feel too bouncy, the damage felt right, and I thought the shooting was extremely solid overall. If I had to scratch my head and think of one weapon that didn't feel as good as the others, I think the Dragunov was probably the one I was most disappointed in. I just didn't get the sense that it was as strong as the other options, so I usually just passed it up. That and grenades. Grenades felt pretty useless, to be honest. Maybe it was just that I wasn't getting the feedback that I expected, but they felt underpowered. Speaking of grenades, there's a really cool system where you could pick up a grenade and throw it back. I never used it, for 3 reasons. 1, I never figured out if I had that button bound, so I tried mashing all my buttons, but never seemed to manage to successfully throw a grenade back, so I'm guessing I'd have to fiddle with my controls a little bit more. Second, it was hard to identify where the grenade landed. Instead of looking around the ground for a few seconds trying to find the damn thing, it was easier just to run away. And third, you never knew how long was left on the grenade timer. I'm not going to pick up a grenade just to have it blow up in my hand. If there's a grenade, I'm going to run away from it, not toward it. And I think that's just good practice. Ultimately, the return to sender option is great on paper, but knowing that even if you return it, it won't do much damage and is a greater risk to you, just run away. Don't worry, I won't make fun of you out loud. I would do the same thing. And don't you think that all this game has going for it is running and gunning. You'll be doing way more than that, including driving and gunning, as well as flying and gunning. This game has it all. Now, that's the general rundown of the story and the gameplay, so let me go over a few specifics and my thoughts on those. If you read the title of this video and were confused, I'll explain it right here. I'm not sure if it's a Steam Deck issue or the game itself or something in between, but I had a bug that frustrated the hell out of me. Randomly, my character would stop running. I couldn't move faster than a leisurely stroll. I couldn't sprint. I couldn't do anything. At first, I fixed it by restarting the game, which is a very tedious way of going about it. Later, I found out that sometimes, though not all the time, I could pause the game and it would get resolved. So, I don't know if there was any trigger to getting this bug to pop up, but it happened all the time. I would say that I experienced it more than 10 times in my playthrough. For single player, that's fine enough, I could deal with it. But if I had this issue in multiplayer, I would have flipped, man. It's hard enough being bad at the game, but if you added this on top of being bad, this game would just be unplayable. I'll write this off as being a bug, but I have another issue that's not. I had some trouble distinguishing enemies from friendlies. Visually, I didn't find them as distinct as I would have liked. Now, I know we're leaning a bit into the realism again here, and there are icons on teammates if you place your cursor on them. But man, when you're reacting in fractions of a second, that's not always enough to determine if the person running at you from your periphery is here to help or hurt. Realism is already out the window as we've described earlier, so give me something that I can identify a little bit easier. A brighter icon over their heads, or a colored highlight around the body, or highlight their body when the cursor crosses over them. I don't know. I just know that several friendlies gained some lead weight from me, and I would like to keep them all alive as much as possible. I know you don't want to create issues visually, but of course, I'm only throwing out ideas that may or may not work. And as I think about it a little bit more, some people may argue that this would go beyond the realism that this game is setting to achieve, but I don't think that's the case. Primarily, this is a game. First and foremost, it is meant to be played in a way that would be enjoyed. Also, if this was real life, you and your team would have studied the map, you'd know the planned route, the levels of resistance would be known, you would have a greater field of view than your screen, and so on. In essence, you'd be much more prepared, aware, and capable. Without those benefits, a bit of compensation would help to benefit the gameplay, even if it extends beyond the realism. I found it a bit strange that this game suffered as much as it did from frame rate lag. I would have thought that an old game like this would have run quite smoothly, given that it didn't have very significant demands on processing, but there were quite a few times where the amount of frame rate lag was noticeable, and the lag spikes had potential to affect the gameplay, though in my case it wasn't enough for me to give up on the game. I even encountered one hard crash which caused me to do a hard reboot of the system. Again, it was noticeable as an issue, but it didn't quite happen so frequently as to force me to quit the game. But when it came to playing the game, I generally had a lot of fun. The missions were pretty engaging and the shooting felt good. Really, when it comes to shooters, that's all we really need, isn't it? Though it would have been nice to have a compass that felt more functional than what we got in this game. It was there, and sure, it pointed to where you needed to go, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the design of it, or the location of the compass, or something like that, but it didn't feel like it helped me very often to get me to go where I needed to go. Honestly, it could have just been me. It could have been that I was just not used to it, and 6 hours of gameplay didn't give me a ton of time to wrap my head around focusing on the compass rather than just walking around aimlessly. But I don't think that's completely it. I think it merely led to the destination rather than the waypoints to get me where I needed to go. So that ended up sometimes guiding me into a wall or fence or something when I really needed guidance to getting around those spots. And I feel nitpicky about choosing this as a point of complaint, but apparently it meant enough to me that I made a note about it, so maybe others feel the same about it as I do. On the other hand, one of the best parts of this game was the helicopter scenario. Not all of your combat will be on foot, like I mentioned earlier, and one of the missions is when you're in a helicopter utilizing thermal vision and you spot various enemies scattering from buildings as you pick them off from above. You have to pay attention to the radio though, as friendly units also approach the area, and with only thermal helping you see, you can't visually tell any units apart. Only radio communication will help you distinguish who is who. Really cool, fun scenario.
Get that person. There's armed personnel running out of the church. Check your fire, you're shooting at friendlies. Watch for the blinking strobes. Those are our guys.
Now let's talk about a few more not so great things in this game. I feel bad saying that because I really enjoyed this game, and I'm sure that many of these things were ironed out over the years with all the subsequent games, but if you're looking to play this particular game, you should know what you're getting into. Continuing on, enemies are infinite in this game. If you stay alive, they will keep spawning, no matter how many you kill. You may not realize it initially, but as you stay put, you'll find that there is no break in the action. At some point, you have to get up and move your ass. And essentially, that's the best way to defeat enemies in this game. You just need to keep moving and pressing forward, preventing any more enemies from spawning. It can be tough, but once you get past the most difficult parts, things tend to relax for a bit as you work your way toward the next checkpoint. And as enemies go, they're both terrible and freaking amazing at this game. The vast majority of the shots aimed at you will miss, at least at this difficulty. I can't say if they're significantly better or not at other difficulties, though I assume that yes, they aim better, or the bullets hit harder, or both. I just haven't tested it out personally. If you know, please let me know in the comments. Anyway, you can usually weather the damage they're putting out because, in reality, they're not going to hit you most of the time. But, and this is a strong but, sometimes you'll be fully covered, and the instant you poke your head out, you'll get nailed with a headshot. It won't kill you, but you'll have to go back to cover and heal it up. It's so annoying. How the hell these stormtroopers are able to manage a perfect shot the instant one of your pixels becomes available is mind-boggling. But it's not only that. Remember those grenades that do next to no damage when you throw them? Well, they'll mess up your day when they land next to you. Not only that, they seem to show up just as you're getting comfortable in a spot. There may not actually be a way for a grenade to get from an enemy's hand to your location, but you'll find one next to you when you least expect it. So given that enemies spawn infinitely, bullets aimed at you are completely inaccurate unless you're coming out of cover, and grenades find their way to you when you're holding back, you can see that often the best course of action is just to run forward and take in the action while you're on the move. I think it would have been nice to have some of these spots be slower, more long distance type of combat, where the enemies didn't respawn and your goal was to clear an area, but that was never really the case. Oh, and before I finish talking about my minor gripes, let's talk about barrels and cars. If they catch fire, they'll blow up. If they blow up and you're too close, you'll die. As you might expect. Okay, well, the first car that blew up next to me kind of took me by surprise, but now you won't be. The problem really comes down to the vehicles and barrels behind you. You may not even know you've got a ticking time bomb behind you, so to avoid that, maybe just keep moving. And why the hell do barrels always need to explode anyway? I guess that's like asking why Counter-Strike maps always need to have boxes. And I would have liked to have seen more of the campaign in this game, and games like this. The single-player campaign was fun, but it was a bit short. I don't really want to go online and listen to little punks complain about how bad I am. I'd rather shoot a teammate in single-player and not get berated. It's too bad because this game had some really great missions. I talked about the helicopter one, but the mission All Gillied Up was definitely a standout. It was a great stealth mission that gave you flexibility to choose a bit of how you wish to proceed, either with full stealth or through combat. It reminded me of how a Hitman game would allow you the choice of how to accomplish a goal, just as long as you got it done in the end. I've made several comparisons to Titanfall 2 in this review, but I'll make one more. All Gillied Up felt like a mission that really stood above the rest in its execution, that it almost defined the experience of the game, kind of like Effect and Cause was in Titanfall 2. In both instances, a single mission was amazing in an otherwise really good game, and when you look back at the game years later, that mission is the one that comes to mind. And I think that pretty much takes care of my thoughts on this game. Last notes before I score this game. How much would I recommend this? I think that I would tentatively recommend it, but it's not great for the Steam Deck, and I hope it runs better on a computer. But the game is fun, at least the single player is. I didn't play the multiplayer, so I can't give you an accurate idea for that, but what I did play was good. So the game itself is fun, though short, but there are so many games in the series that you can probably find another one that is more polished and more compatible easily enough. This one will be the cheapest of the bunch, but that shouldn't guide your purchase completely. And is this game replayable? Single player, a little bit, but not much. You're just running through the campaign, going from checkpoint to checkpoint, so you're not gaining much with replays other than experiencing the campaigns again and maybe speedrunning it. It may be worth it in multiplayer, but it's an old game, so how many people are even still playing this still? I'm sure there's a small contingent out there, but you'll find most players playing the newest games. If you're looking for human competition, this game isn't the best choice. And there you have it. Let's score this game. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare gets a 9 out of 12. 75%. It's a good, fun, buggy mess of a game. I really liked much of the game, but forcing me to walk, the random headshots, the grenade spam, it was all a bit much. Each on their own was a small factor, but it all added up. and after all that, I still enjoyed it. So I won't bomb the score, but it has a lot of room to improve. Before I let you go, here's a brief look at the quote-unquote boss fight. So I covered a lot, but I didn't cover everything. Let me know, was I wrong? Was I fair? The comment section is waiting for you. If I was a YouTuber with a lot of subscribers, I might take this time to thank my Patreon supporters, but I mean really, take a look at that subscriber count. I don't have that many subscribers yet, so I don't have a Patreon page. But I do have a Discord channel, which is the superior form of social media nowadays, right? I don't like Twitter or Facebook, so let's go with yes. If you want to chat with me, join me on my Discord channel. Maybe tell me which Call of Duty is best, or which Avenged Sevenfold song is your favorite, or why the New York Giants are going to suck again this year. Let's chat, it'll be fun. And if you want to support me on this channel, I'm hoping to get to 100 subscribers here. So if you'd like to subscribe, that would mean so much to me. If not, I'll take a like. I'm not picky. Thank you to everyone that joined me today. Without you, I'm just a weirdo talking into a microphone. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care.